Have you ever wondered why you still feel bad even after reflecting on your emotions? It seems like the more you think about them, the more trapped you feel in those feelings. This happens because some methods we use to deal with mental and emotional blocks can actually reinforce them. But the good news is that there are effective ways to overcome them. Today, we'll explore what causes these blocks and how to eliminate them so you can live with more ease and mental clarity. Have you ever experienced this? Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to the channel for more content on mental health. Have you ever tried reflecting on your emotions, trying to understand what you're feeling, only to end up even more confused or distressed? That's because thinking about the problem isn't always the solution. Many traditional approaches encourage us to analyze our feelings, but without the right tools, this can turn into a negative cycle. Instead of resolving mental blocks, we might end up reinforcing them. Why does this happen? Our brain works like a network of neural connections. If we constantly repeat certain thoughts or negative emotions, we strengthen these connections, making it harder to break free from those patterns. Imagine a path in a forest. The more you walk on it, the more defined it becomes. The same thing happens with our thoughts. If we get stuck in negative reflections, they become more automatic and harder to overcome. So, how do we break this cycle? The first step is understanding how these blocks form and persist. Mental and emotional blocks don't appear out of nowhere. They follow a repetitive cycle where thoughts and emotions reinforce each other, keeping a person trapped in patterns that cause distress. Think of a vicious cycle. You feel anxious, think about it all the time, worry about your reactions, and end up fueling even more anxiety. The same happens with depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and other emotional challenges. Let's use a practical example. Imagine someone who is afraid of public speaking. Every time they think about giving a presentation, they feel fear and anxiety. Their heart races, their hands sweat, and their mind fills with negative thoughts. They avoid presentations, reinforcing the idea that public speaking is dangerous. The fear grows stronger, making it even harder to face the situation. This cycle can occur with any mental or emotional block. The more we reinforce the pattern, the harder it is to break free. But the good news is that there are ways to interrupt this cycle and train the brain to respond differently. Many times, without realizing it, we strengthen our own mental and emotional blocks. This happens because our brain tries to protect us, but ends up creating ineffective strategies, such as avoiding certain situations or ruminating on negative thoughts. 1. Overthinking is not the solution. We often believe that thinking a lot about a problem will help us solve it. However, in many cases, excessive analysis only reinforces the blocks. Instead of finding solutions, we get stuck in a cycle of doubt and insecurity. 2. Avoiding emotions makes things worse. When we avoid situations that make us uncomfortable, our brain interprets them as genuinely dangerous. For example, if someone with social anxiety avoids interactions, every time they escape, they reinforce the idea that socializing is threatening. The same happens with depression. If someone labels themselves as useless or incapable, they reinforce that negative belief, making it even harder to find motivation to take action. 3. How to break this cycle. The first step is recognizing these patterns and understanding that our thoughts don't always reflect reality. We need to train our minds to challenge these beliefs and adopt new approaches. Since mental and emotional blocks function as repetitive cycles, what can we do to break them? Therapy and practical techniques can help reprogram how we deal with our thoughts and emotions. Therapy as a tool for overcoming blocks. Therapy, especially approaches like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, helps identify and modify negative thought patterns in a structured way. It teaches that gradually facing our fears reduces the strength of the block. Practical example. Someone who is terrified of driving might start by just sitting in the car without moving. Then, they could turn on the engine, drive short distances, and gradually increase their exposure until the fear loses its intensity. This is called gradual exposure. Self-analysis and coping techniques. If seeing a therapist isn't an option at the moment, some strategies can be applied in daily life. Journaling, therapeutic writing. Writing about your feelings helps organize thoughts and identify harmful patterns. Mindfulness. Practicing mindfulness reduces the tendency to ruminate on negative thoughts. Cognitive restructuring. Whenever a negative thought arises, challenge it. Ask yourself, is this a fact or a distorted interpretation? With these techniques, you can start changing the way you approach emotional and mental challenges. But to do so, it's essential to understand the root causes of mental blocks and how to overcome them. Mental blocks don't appear out of nowhere. They often have deep roots in emotional, cognitive, and even neurological patterns. Let's explore 8 common causes of these blocks and how to overcome them. Not knowing how to identify your emotions, name it to tame it. Many people feel distress or frustration without knowing exactly what they're feeling. This happens because the brain needs to label emotions to process them properly. Example, you feel tightness in your chest and assume it's anxiety, but after reflecting, you realize it's actually frustration from something not going as planned. How to overcome it. Keep an emotional journal. Write down what you're feeling and try to specify the emotion: anger, sadness, fear, frustration, guilt. Use Plutchik's Wheel of Emotions to identify feelings more precisely. Ask yourself, if this emotion were a color or a sound, what would it be? This activates different brain areas and can help with identification. Not understanding the cause of emotions, self-exploration through writing. Even if you can name your feelings, you might not understand why you're experiencing them. This creates confusion and makes problem-solving harder. Example, you feel irritated for no apparent reason, but after some reflection, you realize a comment someone made reminded you of a past negative experience. How to overcome it. Write freely about what you feel without censoring yourself. Then reread and look for patterns. Use the 5 whys technique. Ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? Answer, then ask, why does this bother me? Keep going until you reach the root of the problem. Practice self-observation. Whenever you feel a strong emotion, note what happened before, during, and after. Emotional avoidance. Allow yourself to feel instead of suppressing emotions. Many people avoid dealing with painful emotions, thinking that facing them will be worse. However, the more we avoid them, the stronger they become. Example, you feel sad, but instead of processing it, you distract yourself with social media or food. Over time, that unprocessed sadness turns into demotivation and exhaustion. How to overcome it. Give space to your emotions without judgment. Say out loud, I'm feeling this right now, and that's okay. Try the emotional wave technique. Imagine your emotion as a wave that rises and then fades. Simply observe it without fighting it. Use body-based practices like dancing, walking, or deep breathing to help release stored emotions. Intense physical reactions block thinking. Emotional regulation techniques. The body and mind are interconnected. When intense emotions arise, the body responds with muscle tension, a racing heart, and shortness of breath, making clear thinking difficult. Example, you need to solve a problem, but anxiety takes over, your mind freezes, and nothing makes sense. How to overcome it. Practice diaphragmatic breathing. Inhale deeply through your nose for 4 seconds. Hold for 4 seconds and exhale slowly through your mouth for 6 seconds. Use grounding techniques. Notice 5 things you see, 4 things you can touch, 3 sounds you hear, 2 scents you smell, and 1 positive thing about the present moment. Try progressive muscle relaxation, tensing and releasing different muscle groups to relieve tension. Limiting beliefs, reframing negative core beliefs. Mental blocks often stem from unconscious beliefs about ourselves and the world. These beliefs hold us back and make us doubt our abilities. Example, if you grew up hearing that making mistakes means failure, you might develop a fear of trying new things. How to overcome it. Identify your limiting beliefs by asking, What do I believe about myself that might be holding me back? Challenge these beliefs. Is this belief really true? What evidence do I have against it? Reframe the belief. Change "I'm bad at X" to "I'm still learning X and can improve with practice." Confusion about responsibilities. Locus of control exercise. Some people take responsibility for things they can't control, while others don't take responsibility for their own actions. This can cause anxiety or a sense of helplessness. Example: you feel like everything depends on you and carry an overwhelming burden, or you feel powerless, believing that nothing you do will change your life. How to overcome it. Use the locus of control exercise. Divide a paper into 2 columns. On one side, list what's within your control. On the other, list what isn't. Focus only on the first list. Remember the 90-10 rule. 10% of what happens is out of your control, but 90% depends on how you react. Cognitive processing difficulties. Writing, dialogue, and visualization. Sometimes, our minds get overwhelmed, making it difficult to organize our thoughts. This can lead to procrastination and anxiety. Example: you have a lot of tasks but don't know where to start, so you end up doing nothing. How to overcome it. Make a to-do list with small, manageable steps and focus on one thing at a time. Talk out loud about your concerns. Verbalizing helps clarify thoughts. Use mind maps to visualize ideas and see connections between them. Neurological differences, e.g., OCD, ADHD, personalized strategies. Some people struggle with mental blocks due to neurological differences like attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, or obsessive-compulsive disorder, OCD. Example: a person with ADHD might struggle to maintain focus, while someone with OCD might get stuck in repetitive thoughts. How to overcome it. For ADHD, use timers and break tasks into short, structured intervals, Pomodoro technique. For OCD, practice gradual exposure. Learn to tolerate intrusive thoughts without engaging in compulsions. Seek professional support for specific strategies tailored to your situation. By understanding these common causes of mental blocks and applying effective strategies, you can train your mind to overcome obstacles and navigate challenges with more clarity and resilience. Now that you've identified the main causes of mental blocks, how can you eliminate them in practice? Let's explore some of the most effective techniques to free your mind and regain control of your thoughts and emotions. Seek external help. Therapy, friends, and family. We don't always have the ability to identify and resolve our mental blocks on our own. Talking about our feelings with a professional or someone we trust can help us gain new perspectives. Example: you might be stuck in a negative thought about yourself, but after talking to a friend, you realize they see the situation in a much more positive light. What to do? Consider therapy as an investment in your mental health. Share your struggles with friends or family who can provide emotional support. Join support groups to exchange experiences with people facing similar challenges. Identify and correct distorted thought patterns. Many of our mental blocks come from automatic negative thoughts that distort reality. Example: you make a mistake at work and immediately think, "I'm a failure. I never do anything right." This thought isn't realistic, but it feels true in the moment. What to do? Identify negative patterns like black and white thinking. If it's not perfect, it's wrong. Or catastrophizing. If I mess up, everything will be ruined. Reframe these thoughts. Replace "I'm a failure" with "I made a mistake, but mistakes are part of learning." Use the "what if this was a friend" technique. If a friend told you the same thoughts you have about yourself, would you agree? Probably not. Cognitive methods to restructure negative patterns. Once you've identified negative patterns, you need to replace them with healthier ways of thinking. Example: someone who believes "I can't learn new things" can reframe it as "every learning process takes time, and I can improve with practice." What to do? Practice realistic positive affirmations. Instead of saying "I am perfect," say "I am improving every day." Use the mirror technique. Say a positive thought about yourself out loud every day. Keep a gratitude journal. Write down 3 good things about yourself or your day. This helps train your brain to focus on the positive. Reframing exercises. Turning difficulties into learning opportunities. Many times, a mental block is a sign that something needs attention and change. Example: instead of seeing a mistake as a failure, view it as a stepping stone to growth. What to do? Ask yourself, what can I learn from this situation? Look for examples of people who have overcome similar challenges and use them as motivation. Remember that your brain is adaptable. It changes as you train new thoughts and behaviors. We often see mental and emotional blocks as insurmountable obstacles. But what if, instead of viewing them as barriers, we started seeing them as signs of growth and change? What are your blocks trying to tell you? Mental blocks don't appear for no reason. They usually signal that something inside us needs to be worked on or developed. Example: if you feel an intense fear of failure, it might be a sign that you need to build self-confidence and learn to handle mistakes in a healthier way. What to do? Instead of resisting the block, ask yourself, what is this difficulty trying to teach me? See the block as a challenge to overcome, not as an unsolvable problem. Reframing. Changing how you view difficulties. How we interpret a problem can completely change its impact on us. Example: instead of thinking, I can't do this because I struggle with it, try reframing it as, how can I learn to do this in a way that works for me? What to do? Use powerful questions. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Ask, how can I grow from this experience? Rewrite your story. If you've always believed I have no discipline, start seeing yourself as someone who is learning to build better habits. The role of neuroplasticity. Your brain can change. The brain has an incredible ability to rewire itself throughout life. This means that even if you have negative thought patterns now, they can be changed with practice and persistence. Example: studies show that people who practice new thinking patterns like gratitude and cognitive restructuring can literally change their brain connections over time. What to do? Create an action plan. Choose a mental block you want to overcome and set small daily steps to work on it. Visualize your unblocked self. Close your eyes and imagine yourself facing your challenges with ease and confidence. Practical exercises to train mental and emotional flexibility. Just like we strengthen muscles with physical exercise, we can train our minds to be more flexible and resilient. Daily practices. Change small routines to train your mind to adapt, e.g., brush your teeth with the opposite hand. Step out of your comfort zone. Try learning something new or doing something you usually avoid. Challenge yourself to see the positive in difficult situations. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this experience? Mental and emotional blocks are part of life, but they don't have to define who you are or how far you can go. By understanding their causes and applying strategies to overcome them, you gain greater control over your mind and emotions. Every challenge can be an opportunity for growth, and your brain has an incredible ability to transform. Start with small steps, practice self-compassion, and remember, you have the power to change your reality. If you found this content helpful, leave a comment sharing your experience and subscribe to the channel for more tips on mental health and personal development.